Hey everybody, it's Ashley and welcome back to my kitchen. Today we are going to do a super quick video. We're going to be recapping week 6 and then make a meal plan for week 7. We will talk about a few different projects we had going on this week. It was a super busy week. And then I also made a special sweet treat for our family, and I also made one for a neighbor. I wanted to do something nice, something to share some kindness. And so we did that, and we stuck with the plan of working with our pantry items, so we made sure to use some of our pantry items for that. So let's just jump into the week 6 recap for our meals. We started out by making that turkey dinner. If you saw last week's video, you knew that I had intended to use it last week. Didn't get it thawed out in time, but we did a really beautiful brine. It turned out so delicious. For the turkey brine, I kept it super simple, along with a great deal of water. It was just a lot of salt, a little sugar, and some bay leaves, which, if you know me, they're one of my favorites. We got the turkey submerged in the brine and left it for about 16 hours before getting it dried off to go in the oven. After drying the turkey, I actually just baked it in our largest cast iron pan, which always works great for us. This is a 15¼ inch diameter pan, and the slightly taller but slanted sides work really well to roast and to keep everything in while it's baking. Once the thermometer registered that the meat was done baking, we covered the whole bird for about a half an hour with some tin foil. And this sort of steams the turkey a little with its own heat, which is one of our best tricks for keeping all that moisture right where we want it, which is in the meat. So we made a full turkey dinner for Sunday, and then we had so much meat left over on that turkey that we were able to pull off enough to make our pot pie for day 2. And we always do biscuits with that. I've got onions and butter going here. We've got peas, carrots. I got my bag here for discard and scraps. Got the onions in there. And then I'm starting on this new chunk of celery, and I'll go ahead and just cut off a bunch of the top and the leaves and put that in with my broth bag, because we're going to be doing turkey broth later this week. We are just finishing mixing up the pot pie filling here. We've started to bake the biscuits on a separate pan almost all the time, because our family likes them a little bit crunchier. They get a little soft on the bottom here. I just put the lid on our Dutch oven here, and it makes a really nice, not pressure cook, but it almost has that way of trapping heat and the intensity of the cooking. I got 4 cups of turkey chopped up here that we're going to use in our turkey enchiladas tomorrow. Still have a bunch on the cutting board. And then I also have more to glean off of this, and then we're going to make some beautiful broth with this. So we're not done, but we've got our dinner ready to go in the oven. For day 3, we did chicken enchiladas. We are really quickly doing our enchiladas tonight. I've got the turkey leftover day 2 in here with some sour cream and salsa and some seasonings. We are very quickly making some relatively ugly tortillas, but we're making those homemade. Got the pile of done ones here. We are almost completed. It's going to be fine because they're going to be rolled up in all of the good mixture. And then right here, I just have my pan with some more salsa, where we'll roll them up and then we'll top them with some more of the sauce, maybe a little cheese. We'll see. Now, one thing I want to say about those 3 days is that turkey not only lasted us those 3 days, but I also actually had some left over and put it in the freezer for another meal. And then I got all this broth. I did use the turkey for this, and then I also used some lamb and some veggies, but we were able to get 8 quarts, 4 pints of broth, which was fantastic because we've been using a lot of broth, and I have been really trying to build up sort of an inventory of broth on our shelves because we use it for so many things, whether it's just straight drinking, making rice, cooking in soups. We use it so much. So I'm super glad that we were able to utilize that turkey. I didn't have to put it in my freezer and use it at a later time. I just kind of kept the whole process rolling. But one big thing with utilizing just like a focus of one or maybe a couple ingredients over the course of a couple different meals is something that we'll talk about in the next coming weeks, especially as the Pantry Challenge kind of winds down and getting into March. We'll talk a lot about this idea as a new way of meal planning. And a lot of the ideas with the approach to meal planning is not necessarily a complete new concept, but it's about switching our mindset and the way we look at it and the time frames that we're using to plan those meals. So I'll talk more about that in the next coming weeks. The idea with meal stacking, we've been at it for a couple of years, but we've recently made a bunch of really big changes to be able to provide things in a much like smoother way to you. I did put a video out last year, sometime in the spring, about meal stacking, and I'll try to link that in the description box if you want to look at it. And I'll also link our website in the description box too, if you want to look at that in the meantime before these videos start coming out. So on day 4, we had, what did we have? Bratwurst and kraut, and then just some veggies. It was so tasty. And the sauerkraut, I swear, just keeps getting better in the fridge. It was the perfect sauerkraut, and there's no other way to describe it. It was just, it fermented really well this year, and then it's just been stuck in the fridge, and as we eat it, it's just so good. So on day 5, we had lamb stew, super simple. We had it a few weeks ago, 2 nights in a row, because it was so good. On day 6, we had our brothy stew. We used some of the broth, actually not some of this broth. This is just broth that we had, I want to kind of rotate the freshest, so we actually use some of our downstairs broth for that meal. But it was just a super basic brothy soup with some veggies and noodles. And my family always likes soup like that. Unfortunately, I left all of these soups and stews for the end of the week, but because I was using the turkey earlier in the week, I didn't really want to wait on that. I just kind of wanted to use those up and then shift into other gears. So I probably should have thought a little bit better about all of the soups that I had planned this week, but it worked out okay. And we actually stuck to our meal plan 100% of what the plan was, which is the first time that that's happened this entire pantry challenge. Tonight, which is day 7, I've got some beef thawing. We are gonna make hamburger soup. And I talked about this last week just briefly, but it's a recipe that my grandma made a lot. She's definitely on my mind today as I go and prepare this soup. This is the sweet treat I made this week, where I made one for us and one for some neighbors of ours. I thought about doing a pie or a cobbler, but settled on this strudel type treat. I used phyllo dough, and I did about 5 layers for each of the desserts. I don't own a pastry brush, so I used very clean hands to spread the butter on each layer. We place a high importance on giving in our house, and that is such a wonderful part of the holidays, but there are people who mean so much to us or do things for us, and that we want to make sure we show our appreciation throughout the year. It can also just be something when you feel someone needs to be uplifted a little bit. I encourage you, if it's something that sparks some inspiration, to do something special for someone else this week. Or maybe you've already done something recently. Either way, share in the comments so that we can all be uplifted reading about these random acts of kindness. So a couple other things I had going on this week. I did some really intense organization in my kitchen. I did these cabinets in particular. Coming up next week, I actually am going to be working with somebody who organizes professionally to do my pantry. It's something that I've thought about doing for a long time. I've definitely reorganized it many times, but we just need something that is going to be more sustainable, because I'm not the only one going in there. So even if I know these systems, I need something that everybody in our house has an easier time maintaining. So it's something that I've never done before, but I'm hopeful that it's going to be well worth the time and money to do that. So we did some organizing, and then also I did a sourdough starter. And I thought, well, if it does well, maybe I'll kind of document it or show the video on it. But what's really interesting is that the poll that I gave you guys on the sourdough, more people had not done it, but were interested in doing it than anyone else. And then second to that were people who keep a sourdough and love it and use it. And I guess that was kind of surprising to me. I was thinking that over the past couple of years, anybody who had interest in sourdough probably took it up and their interests fell wherever they fell. But I was really surprised to find that there were still a lot of people who hadn't done it yet. I came across a video recently where the woman did 50 grams of water to flour for 4 days straight, and On day 5, it was usable. However, what was interesting is that on day 2 was showing signs that it was very active, where I feel like I probably could have used it. I do not have a ton of knowledge or experience with sourdough, but that's kind of what it was looking like. And then on day 3, it almost like flattened and the water just kind of rose to the top and it stayed there. So it sort of flattened out, and I was thinking, well, that doesn't look like something that's active that could make something rise. And so I just kind of continued, and then on day 4, I did the same thing. I added it again, and it just continued in the same fashion. So I thought, well, maybe there's too much liquid, not enough flour to feed. So last night, which would have been day 5, which I was planning to hopefully make something on day 5, I just gave it a bunch of flour, and there's no more liquid on top, and now there's a lot more bubbles on the inside here. So I don't know. I have no expectation for what's going to happen with that, but I started one, and I don't know. I'm documenting what I've done, but the fact that this woman had said 50 grams of both 4 days in a row, mine looked like hers did on day 2, which is what hers looked like on day 4. So that already was very different. And I think that I got thinking, well, what are these variables that could be? You know, you watch a video on someone who says it's the easiest sourdough or the best sourdough, or foolproof sourdough. But what are the outside factors that are affecting it? Is it your own flora in your house that makes it go faster or slower? Things that maybe somebody, if they have success, even the way I have potential success, might not work if someone even follows those instructions exactly. And I think house temperature also has something to do with it. So there's a lot of variables that I think can affect sourdough that aren't typically accounted for. Normally it's like follow a step by step, and it should turn out. But I think that, at least in my experience, anytime I've tried it, it has not turned out like that. And so I think it's more about recognizing the signs of activity, and then when it kind of flattened and had that liquid on top, what that means. Those are all things that I need to dig into. Okay, the meal plan for this week was really fun to make. I had a lot of fun picking, just grabbing jars and picking various things from the basement. For some reason, I keep finding chicken down there. I thought I've used it all, but I keep finding it. So there we have it. We'll do 1 week of leftovers, or 1 day of leftovers. I already have that kind of in my head. And I kind of feel it's likely to be one of the 2 dishes that I've planned. We still have broccoli. In fact, we're down to 1 of these bags in the freezer, and maybe a little up here still. So we have a lot of broccoli. And so what I'm planning to do with the broccoli is do a chicken, broccoli, rice skillet, I guess. Maybe I'll throw some beans in there, but those are the 3 primary ingredients that I'll work with. And I'll just kind of do it on the stove top, put some broth in there. Ooh, that's another thing I could have grabbed, but I didn't yet. So I'll put some broth in there, and just kind of maybe use my Dutch oven so it can kind of steam and cook under some sort of mild pressure. Another meal that I have planned is some spaghetti. And so I'm going to put this in my freezer upstairs, and we'll do some spaghetti. We haven't had spaghetti in a long time. So I grabbed this for spaghetti. I grabbed some pasta noodles. And one thing that we always did growing up was break our noodles in half when you put them in the pot. But Target started selling these pot-sized spaghettis, which is kind of fun. And I think they actually store better on shelves too, instead of those big long boxes. So I got some tomatoes for that sauce. I got some tomato sauce for that. I think I got two for that. I grabbed a jar of applesauce when I was down there, just for a sweet treat after a meal one night. We did that week before last, and it was awesome. One night we will do burritos, and what's so funny is that the last 3 weeks our sort of Mexican night has fallen on Tuesday. So we're gonna go with another Taco Tuesday. I'm sure it's gonna happen on Tuesday again. We'll use some of our canned beef. I grabbed a quart of salsa this time. We are down to, this is our 6th, so now we have 5 downstairs, this large, our quarts, and then we only have 3 pints. But like I keep saying, we're getting closer to those tomatoes in our freezer, and I think salsa is what's going to happen with them. But anyway, so I grabbed a quart this week. I'm sure we'll use it up. I brought some broth. I think, well, I need to grab another one for that chicken skillet, but I think I grabbed this one because I'm going to do a white bean and ham soup. We have a ham bone in our freezer from some of the ham we had recently, and there's ham on it. And I thought it would be a good chance to use some of these new beans that we got from Azure. We're not going to use a lot of them, but we'll use the white beans and some of this broth in addition to the ham, maybe some potatoes and carrots. I'm thinking that's probably the direction we'll go with that. Oh, and for our burritos this week, we're going to go beef and bean, which is something I probably should have been doing all along. Okay. And then we're going to repeat something that I've had a few times because it's so good. We're going to do another tuna noodle casserole. We still have peas. It seems like peas and broccoli are, they were just so plentiful in our freezer when this pantry challenge started. So any chance to be able to use those up. I used some more peas this last week in that pot pie, which was fantastic. But we're going to do another tuna noodle casserole. And then that is all of our dinners except one, which is tomorrow, which is Super Bowl Sunday. And so what we're going to do actually is get some ingredients from a store because we're going to do like homemade sub sandwiches. Our family loves sandwiches. They love sub sandwiches. And so instead of buying them out, we're just going to get the ingredients and make them at home. And we have a few other like snacky items planned. One of those items is going to be like a chickpea dip. I'm not sure if it's going to be a full-blown hummus or not. It might just sort of be like, maybe like a rough chop, I'm thinking. But we'll see how it turns out. So I was thinking that'd be a great way to use a can of beans. And let's see. And just have like veggies and different things like that out for snacking. So that's our meal plan.